So my name's Callie Mady, and I studied at McGill University after secondary school, and I studied languages and got my BA. And then afterwards, I went to Brock to get a B.Ed and to OISE at the University of Toronto for my MA and PhD that focused on second language education. I think it depends on context when we use the term additional language learners. So internationally, it's my experience that people think about any language that you're learning in addition to your first. In the context of Canada, it's my experience that most people are referring to learning a language in addition to English and French. So in schools, we may think of English language learners who come as immigrants. We may think of students born in Canada but have a home language that they use at home or a language that they use with their grandparents. I would say that language learners need to know that all of their knowledge and all of their skills are of value. All your language knowledge and skills can be used to enhance your additional language learning. I think sometimes teachers have opportunities here where they can make it more explicit that students have such skills that they can rely on, that they could ask the students what strategies they use, as they may not be aware of them. So I think teachers have opportunities to provide space for students to use their language knowledge, even if it's encoded in a language the teacher doesn't know. But I think the research also tells us that there are mitigating factors for students to access those advantages. So for example, some research says that your proficiency in your first language will influence how well you can learn a second, how well you can learn a third. So I think we get some practical advice from those mitigating factors. As a system, as a ministry, as a board, as a school, we could provide opportunities for our students to maintain their first languages, for example, knowing that in addition to affirming their identities, that it would also support their language learning and academic success. Often in our role as educators, when we want to set up students for success, we may often choose to exempt English language learners from French as a second language study or other students. And I think that is because we want to set up our students for success, or we're not aware of how we can support them to be successful. But I would like people to know is with the correct support, our learners can learn a second, third, fourth language. I think particularly because of our great success with French immersion and the direct method, that we hold the belief that teaching French only in French and encouraging our students only to speak French meets with great success. On the other hand, now we also know that particularly with cognitively demanding tasks, teachers can provide space for other languages and can monitor that space and when they give space to students. So they may allow students to brainstorm prior to doing a task in another language so that they can then better produce in the language when the time comes. In the same time, a teacher could do some research themselves, particularly if they have a student who's having a difficulty. And if they did a bit of research on the language, that they may come to understand why there is such a difficulty and be able to support the student and understand how to better meet their needs. I think, for example, a teacher may often think, I don't share my students' languages. How can I provide support to someone who speaks a language other than the ones that I know? And I think that that's a great opportunity, in addition to allowing your students some space to use their languages, that the students can actually become the experts and they can teach the teacher some things about their languages and teach the other students, which creates a space that affirms the student's identity, that affirms language learning, and also seeking strategies. The teacher becomes a model that we continue to learn.